theaters full of women.
Goat's milk latte drinking.
There you go again.
Please clap.
Somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body.
A what now?
And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House.
Where's my banana?
That's a banana republic without the banana.
Who am I? Why am I here?
Are you a racist?
He's a jackass.
Pokemon go to the polls.
They know one thing. I hate rats.
Well, I'm not a crook.
I grew up castrating hogs.
4 glorious years, I guess.
Vote to confirm a ham sandwich.
Ooh, don't do it.
Still like beer? 20-foot impressive seahorse he's riding.
Rent. It's too damn hot.
What do you say, icon guy?
Icon.
You can't. Never been you so long.
I have the ability to turn people on.
Sashay down there and vote for this amendment.
Officially weird.
From one year to the next are the same.
YouTube, hello, welcome. It is Friday. Let's get some music going. We are here. We are live. So excited. We're going to have 2 really special guests for you tonight. We have David Hogg on later in just a bit. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but David Hogg is under some heat because he is being attacked by traditional Democrats because he is planning to what he's going to describe to you as primarying Democrats who he thinks are not doing enough. And a lot of people are saying, well, if you're going to be DNC vice chair, don't you have to pick one or the other? Like either you're part of the party or you're on the outside trying to fix it. So I'm really interested to talk to him about that. I'm excited to do that. And also we do have Brian Derrick on earlier. He'll be on in about 8 minutes or so, and he'll be talking to us about, let's just get right into it because I'm actually very distraught about what is happening in our country right now. But Donald Trump is trying to take an executive action targeting ActBlue. And I'm sure if you're watching this channel, you know that ActBlue is one of the best ways that Democrats can fundraise online. And so what Donald Trump is really doing is trying to attack Democrats' ability to have campaigns. That's really what this is about. So Brian Derrick is he is a CEO and he's created one of the other fundraising apparatuses that Democrats use. And so I'm really excited to have him on as well. But let's talk about this real fast. Shall we just talk about this? George Santos was seen sobbing into his hands as a judge read harsh prison sentence, calling him an arrogant fraudster. You know, I was talking to producer Hussein before we started this, and I got to say, this is great. I'm glad George Santos is facing consequences. But what is the difference between George Santos and Donald Trump? I mean, the only thing we could think of was that George Santos is gay. He is he doesn't come from money. I guess like it's okay to be fraudulent and to lie if you're a rich white guy, but for everyone else, you got to face some consequences because Donald Trump did what George Santos did and much worse. And Donald Trump, I believe he owes New York State like $400 million because of a lawsuit they waged against him and he hasn't paid it. Yeah, same with Elon. Exactly, Amy. Now let's just get a little to this story. This is great. All right, George Santos is gonna get 7 years in prison. 7 years in prison. I was just talking about, think about where were you in 2018? Where were you in 2018? 7 years is such a long time. It's such a long time. And he was hoping before going in, he was going to get 2 years because he thought the judge was going to be like, oh, you know, I learned my lesson. But no, the judge came for him. The judge said this. Where is the remorse? She asked incredulously at one point. Where do I see it? She expressed some sympathy for Mr. Santos and hoped for his future, even if it's not derailed by a prison sentence. But she ultimately sided with the federal prosecutor's recommendation that he receive an 87-month sentence Quote, Mr. Santos, words have consequences. You got elected with your words, most of which were lies. Sounds like Trump. He was ordered to pay more than $370,000 in restitution to his victims and will have to give up 10% of his income towards payments once he's released. After his sentencing, Mr. Santos straightened and pulled a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses out of his suit jacket. He strode from the courthouse to an awaiting car without speaking to the press, and he did not respond to a request for comment. Probably the only time George Santos has not wanted to speak to the press. We have a little bit of let's just show a little bit the color of George Santos entering the courthouse. Just a circus.
Back up!
Yeah.
Back up!
Well, that's what happens when you're a Republican, and unfortunately, I guess I'm telling you, he's just not rich enough. We don't have the content for this because I wasn't expecting to say it, but I will say it. Just trust me that this is true. Donald Trump just pardoned someone that is called like the female Trump in Arizona, I think it is, or somewhere out of some state. She defrauded people too. But Trump, I guess she was rich enough that Trump feels like she's on his team. So this really is, to me, this is very much so like it is very much so class warfare now about the haves and haves nots. If you don't have, you've got to pay. You got to pay close attention to law. You got to follow all the rules. If you have, then don't worry. Everything's going to be fine. And we're also seeing this judge. Have you guys heard about this? I'm sure you have. A Wisconsin judge was arrested and accused of shielding immigrants from federal agencies. This is her, Hannah Dugan, in 2016. And she says, here's what they alleged. Despite having been advised of the administrative warrant for the arrest of Flores Ruiz, Judge Dugan then escorted Flores Ruiz and his counsel out of the courtroom through the jury door, which leads to a non-public area of the courthouse, said the complaint. Okay. And so what? And they also allege here that she was visibly upset and had a confrontational, angry demeanor. Like, that's not illegal to be confrontational and angry. And so then they go on to say here, unfortunately, we have seen in recent months the president and the Trump administration, this is Wisconsin's Democratic governor, Tony Evers, saying, unfortunately, we have seen in recent months the president and the Trump administration repeatedly use dangerous rhetoric to attack and attempt to undermine our judiciary at every level, including flat out disobeying the highest court in the land and threatening to impeach and remove judges who do not rule in their favor. Now, this is bigger than like one judge in this one case, because to me, this is Donald Trump signaling to judges, to low-level Republicans, to the Senate, and to the Supreme Court that he is willing, and able to arrest anyone that gets in his way. And this to me is this is the executive overreach we've all been worried about. And I want to go back to this ActBlue thing because we have Brian Derrick who's coming on right now, and I just want to tee this up. The Trump is taking executive action targeting ActBlue, which is one of the biggest Democratic fundraising platforms. And here's a bit of what it says. It directs Pam Bondi to investigate allegations regarding the unlawful use of online fundraising platforms to make straw or dummy contributions or foreign contributions to political candidates and committees, and to take appropriate action to enforce the law. And the one thing I want to talk about is that the hypocrisy of this, because Donald Trump's alleging that there's fraud in ActBlue, which I'm sure there's like some level of fraud. I mean, it's a big platform. I'm sure someone somewhere illegally donated money who shouldn't, was a foreign national. Who knows? But Donald Trump is out in the open with his Trump coin, trying to fleece foreign actors to try to get influence. So it's another one of those things where like an accusation is actually him pointing at himself. But I'm very excited to have Brian Derrick on right now to talk to us about all this. He's the CEO of Oath, and he's here right now to talk to us about everything ActBlue. Hi.
Keith, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. So you are the CEO of Oath. Can you explain to the folks watching what Oath is?
Yeah, Oath is another donation platform that donors use to give to Democratic candidates, where we actually make recommendations about where your dollars will have greatest impact based on what you are interested in. So for reproductive rights, protecting democracy, flipping the House, we do a bunch of analysis and figure out where the money needs to go in order to achieve that goal.
Wow. And so then what do you want everyone to take away from this executive order? And by the way, executive orders are not decrees. They're not laws. Like, he's basically just saying, hey, go look at this, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a presidential memorandum is what they're calling this one. And really what people need to understand is that this is just another action by Trump where he's trying to undermine his political opponents. ActBlue is the primary platform used by Democrats all over the country running for federal, state, local office to raise billions of dollars every cycle to power their campaigns. And Republicans hate that because it's grassroots power. The average donation on ActBlue is like $35. And they've hated it for a long time. They've been fantasizing about a way to get back at ActBlue or to chop away at Democrats' base of grassroots support, because that's how we win the elections that we do, because the grassroots show up. And so this is really a hyper partisan attack. There's no there. And Trump's goal here is to create the pretext under which he might potentially try to shut down the platform. That's what we're most concerned about.
Oh, interesting. How could they do that?
Well, now it kind of sits with Pam Bondi, the AG, and it's
the most terrifying words anyone can hear.
Yeah, precisely. And I think that she's pretty much a rogue element, and there's no saying what exactly she will do. They're also weaponizing the FBI, as we've seen through, as you were just talking about, the arrest of a federal judge today. And so either of those entities could try to take some sort of extreme action that would either disrupt or temporarily take down the platform. We hope that that is not what's happening. ActBlue is well resourced and has a lot of lawyers and a lot of money, and they're going to fight all of this with everything that they have. We're going to support them as much as we can in doing that. But that's certainly the concern, is that there could be some sort of disruption in how Democrats are fundraising for their campaigns.
Well, we've raised I was surprised with this. We raised $400 million on ActBlue since Trump made that announcement. And then I think they had the largest fundraising day ever on the platform after he made the announcement. So it is a really effective fundraising platform. But what would you say to folks who are worried about this, that this means it's going to impact the way that we can campaign?
Yeah, there's a few things to know. First, that you can still donate on ActBlue right now. As you said, they're having like record traffic to the platform right now as people try to push back against Trump, which is exactly what we want people to do. The second is that if they do go rogue and try to take down the platform for some amount of time, there are other ways that you can still donate. People are less familiar with them, but there are other platforms that you can use to give to Democratic candidates and organizations that you care about and believe in. Oath is one of them. There are others as well. But we have done everything in our power to be ready for a potentially huge influx in traffic, to make sure that not only the platform is stable and secure, but also that our analysis is delivered in real time, so that the scores on the platform change as people are donating, and making sure that your $25 or $2,500, whatever it is that you have to give, is going to be used effectively.
Yeah, well, use effectively is right. And I think David Hogg is going to be on in a little bit. But one of the things is I'm not so worried about the money problem, because like we've got tons of money. We spent $2 billion last election and we didn't have a lot to show for it, you know? And so I don't think money is the issue. I think, you know, he's maybe, I mean, let him spend his time, you know, attacking ActBlue and it probably going nowhere. It seems like a waste of resources and intention for him. But certainly I think the fact that we're raising a lot of money is great, but I also think that money can only take you so far with elections.
It's super true. The money matters more and more the further you go down ballot. You're 100% right. The Harris campaign in particular spent billions of dollars. Obviously, we lost. A lot of money goes to waste. Literally hundreds of millions of dollars on U.S. Senate races by our assessment. A lot of money goes to waste on safe seats, either safely Democratic seats that the candidates—
Or like the Marjorie Taylor Greene seats.
Seats. That's exactly right. Or like the super long shot where we hate the Republican and want to get them out, but that doesn't mean that we should just give all of our money to the Democrat running against them just because. There are more effective ways to make those people less relevant and get them out of power. That's literally why we created Oath. But to your point, Keith, if ActBlue goes down, it's really the like state legislative candidates and the county candidates and the school board candidates and all of those races that are really hurt, because that's the platform that they rely on to send out links to their donors to get support. And so, yes, there are other opportunities or options available that they can try to use, but none of them are as trusted and prolific as ActBlue.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think that's one of the things I like about Oath, and I've helped fundraise before, is that y'all are like, hey, give us whatever you can afford, your money, and we're going to find the most effective ways for that money to be used. So ActBlue is really like an in between person, whereas Oath is like an in between person, but you're also like you already know the research, so you know how the money can be most impactful, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And your money still goes direct to the candidates. We don't take control of the funds, and we don't take a cut of the funds either. We're really just making the recommendation about where it should go. And then the other benefit being that we don't share your contact information, so that you're not ending up on all the email and text message lists that kind of drive everybody crazy. I mean, you did your birthday fundraiser on Oath.
I did.
Which we were very appreciative for state Supreme Court races that are super overlooked by most people in the Democratic ecosystem, but as we're seeing, are more important than ever as Republicans come after judges and the judicial system as a whole. And I think that that's like also the grander point here, is it's not even necessarily about, is our candidates going to be able to run their campaigns without ActBlue for a couple of days or a week, if that's what comes to pass. But it really is about Trump abusing the powers of his office every chance he gets to go after his political opponents. He's doing it with DOJ. He's doing it with the FBI. He's doing it against universities. He's doing it against all kinds of institutions that we've seen since day one of his presidency. This was always about retribution, and this is just another extension of that.
Valerie says here, I've donated to ActBlue in the past. Now they text me all the time. That's a big problem.
It's a huge problem. It is a huge problem because it's all these people thinking short term of like, oh, I wonder if I text this person 50 more times if they'll give $5. But all the people that you texted 50 times, a huge portion of them never want to give again because you've annoyed them to death and you've been so extreme in your messaging. We want to create a more sustainable way for people to actually have control over how often we communicate with them, over the types of messaging that we send. And yeah, it's true. Once you give on ActBlue or through another platform as well that's not Oath, once the campaign has your email and phone number, they own it. And so they resell it, whether they win or lose. They often sell those lists to people to try to defray the expenses of their campaign. And that's how you end up with all of these people texting you that you've never heard of, because they can sell it as many times as they want. It's a really bad system. We're trying to push for change and change the incentive structure so that people think longer term and think more strategically about what money can and can't do in the political ecosystem.
Yeah, and I'm like sick of these texts of like Nancy Pelosi being like, Keith, listen, if I don't get this $5, Keith, I'm going to kill myself. I'm serious.
Right.
Like, no. Give me the $5. There's a gun in my mouth.
It's literally so out of control. And all the matches, this always blows people's mind. I'm sure you know this, but a lot of the matches that people are being texted about, if you give now, it'll be matched 4-1 by midnight tonight. Like, that's not even real. There are so few laws or even regulations of any kind internally within the party to sort of control that type of messaging and misleading tactic. And it doesn't do anybody any good to send that sort of panicky, extreme solicitation especially when that's the kind of messaging that people hear the most often from the Democratic Party. You don't see people like AOC and Bernie are around the country doing incredible speeches and moving remarks about what the future of the country should look like. What you hear constantly is the text message and email solicitation in your inbox. And that's really what's driving the most negative part, I think, of the Democratic Party's messaging overall.
We're going to change gears for 1 second because Greg Tilgman says, I think Keith likes gingers. Did you see how he greeted his guest? We're friends. We know each other.
We are friends. We've been friends for a long time. But you are deflecting. That's kind of a politician answer. And the people want to know. The people do want to know.
I like all types.
Oh, yeah.
Ginger, blonde, brown hair, everyone. Black hair. I like them all.
Yeah, I can. Should I spill the tea on your own show?
What is a tea?
I don't know. We can go through what I know about your romantic.
I think we got David Hogg coming on soon. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, hold on. We'll save it for the after party.
Yeah, the after show. Amazing. Yeah. Oh my God. Greg's like, spill it. Everyone wants you to spill the tea. No, we're not spilling any tea. The viewership just went up 20%.
Right. That's how it goes. Give the people what they want.
All right. Well, now I'm sweating. So thank you for that, Brian.
No, you're just excited about David. I can already tell.
So there's oath. What is it? Oath.com?
Vote.
Oath.vote. Oath.vote. Brian Derrick, also on Instagram as your main platform. That's Brian Derrick, that's BrianDerrick. Brian Derrick. He releases amazing content. Not as much as he used to because he's CEO of a very big company now, but he does release amazing content and is actually, I think you're really good at morning wrap-ups. That's your best thing is like, I will go to you in the morning, like, all right, here's what I need to focus on today.
I read way too much news. So I try to break it down to like just what's most interesting and most pressing for people. That's all in my stories though, but I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing the videos back. It's time. This is a crisis. The country is literally hanging on by a thread because of Trump. So I'm coming back to the gram. I'll be producing more content soon.
Awesome. Good. Well, you can join the content mills with me working away.
Prolific. I love your rooms.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining. This has been super informative and fun. So I hope you come on again.
I will be back anytime.
All right. Awesome. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Good to see you. All right. That was fun, right? All right. Let me just catch up on these comments. Y'all were like going nuts. Oh my God. Spill a little. No tea. Okay. And now we have David Hogg. So I'm very excited to have, we're just moving very fast here. Very excited to have on David Hogg. As I said, he made this announcement last week that he is going to be potentially primarying Democrats who he feels like are doing nothing. He's gotten a lot of pushback from people within the party. They're saying that he should resign from his role as DNC vice chair. And I just want to talk to him about it. I think it's an important thing, primaries. And I don't know. I want to see how he feels, and let's get right into it. David Hogg, thank you so much for joining the channel. I have to say, when I announced this on Tuesday of this week, the chat lit up. People were very excited to know that you were going to be here, and I know you're getting a lot of heat right now. And I kind of just want to talk to you about your thoughts around all of this, because I think it's super interesting. I think this is the dynamics of a party that actually has disagreements, which I think is good, unlike the Republican Party, which has to align itself to one person's personality. And so let's talk about it. So you had this, first off, you got elected to DNC vice chair. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's kind of that conflict now with this idea that you've had where you want to primary Democrats who you say are not doing a good job. Can you give me some more insight on that?
Yeah. So what's interesting about this is that there have been vice chairs before that have been involved in primaries and have had, leadership packs and other things that help to spend money in races like primaries. And this isn't in the bylaws at all. It's not officially in conflict with any rule whatsoever. When I was running for this position, I was also simultaneously running Leaders We Deserve, my organization that I co-founded with Kevin Latta, Maxwell Frost's campaign manager, to kind of be like an Emily's List for young Democrats running for state legislature and Congress. And I wanted to be sure that I was going to be able to do it. So I looked at previous vice chairs to see had they been involved in primaries, and they had. And then I read the bylaws, and there was nothing in the bylaws that said that we can't be involved in primaries by any means other than the presidential, which totally makes sense to me. I don't want a repeat of 2016, obviously. And because I'm not breaking the rules right now, they are changing the rules so that I am.
I was shocked that they actually had decided that they were going to be changing the rules. It seems very Republican to me that they have a certain set of rules, and then when someone is doing something they don't like, they're actually kind of doing the thing they're accusing you of, which is they're saying like, hey, we're gonna reorganize this to make it so that the incumbents are better protected.
Yeah, and look, I'm doing this because I want to build the strongest Democratic Party possible, and I think there's some misconceptions out there about what we're doing exactly. So I want to clear that up too. We are not just spending this money in primaries. We obviously want to support candidates that are in purple districts, critical for us to break Republican majorities in state legislatures and break the Republican majority in Congress and get Hakeem Jeffries the gavel to make him Speaker of the House. And what my view of it is right now is last election, we had a 27% we have a 27% approval rating, despite the fact that Donald Trump is disappearing people. He's destroying our economy, and he's being so reckless as he is. And last election, we spent $2 billion only to get a result where we lost. And what I'm thinking here is that sometimes it's not just a matter of messaging, it's a matter of who we are as a party. And I think one of the strongest things that we can do is in our safer seats, have a competitive process to ensure that we have the best Democrats possible serving us in seats where we do not risk potentially losing the majority, for example. So going back to your question about how they're going about this process, my view on it is that I ran under the bylaws as they were. It's not like I tried to hide the fact that I worked for Leaders We Deserve. I literally talked about it in every single forum and how we raised $11.5 million last election cycle and how we supported young people, young Democrats running for state legislature and Congress all over the country. And to me, that's the view of the situation. Look, if they change the bylaws and they force me out because of that, I have no control over that. And I don't take this stuff personally. This is a strategic disagreement ultimately. But what I'm doing is in this moment of crisis that our country is in, we need to do everything that we can to be the strongest opposition party possible to Donald Trump. And we need to show people an alternative vision to Donald Trump that is not just not being him. We need to show them what we're doing to revive the American dream and build the strongest Democratic Party possible, because last election cycle, and I think this is the biggest reason overall why this is necessary, we lost voting share with almost every single demographic, except predominantly people that are older and people that are highly educated. And that is despite having $2 billion. So sometimes it's not just your messaging, it is who you are. And what I'm trying to do is ensure that we have the best representation possible. And it's not just about older people. There are old people who are great and there are young people who suck and vice versa. Unfortunately, it's not like you just get above a certain age and then you're terrible. It's not that simple. What we're doing is it's not out with the old and in with the new. It's out with the ineffective and in with the effective. And it's a healthy process, just giving voters an option.
Yeah, you mentioned this last night on CNN with Caitlin Collins. I just want to show a bit of this.
Good. Have anything to be worried about here, but if this makes you anxious, maybe, and you're a member of Congress, maybe you should think about why that is and how we can step up to meet the moment. Because the reality is here, right now, in order to help combat Donald Trump, we need to be the strongest opposition party possible to him. If you're doing a good job.
Yeah, so I guess my question is like, what is a Democrat that is doing a good job? What does that look like?
Senator Van Hollen, for example. It looks like people like Maxwell Frost or AOC or, even people, obviously few people are going to be able to have the charisma and name ID and notoriety of an AOC. And that's not what I'm asking for. What I'm asking for is for people to show up to their committee meetings. What I'm asking for is for people to show Democrats across the country how we're fighting, not just in our competitive seats, which is obviously so important, but show our base and our blue strongholds, what we're doing to stand up to fight back against Donald Trump, and not just sit on our hands and say, well, we're in the minority, we can't do anything. No, there are things that we can do to get out there and work to hold his feet to the fire and hold him accountable, and not just roll over and die, which I feel like far too many people feel like we've abandoned them. They feel like we're not fighting hard enough for them. And I think in order to start to change that, We need to make sure that we're going to hold everybody in our party accountable, because that is part of what makes our party different, is that we are not a cult that just says, you need to agree with everything that one person says or else you're excommunicated from the party. We have a diversity of views. And some of those views, especially on guns for some of our candidates that are in tougher districts, I don't necessarily agree with, obviously. But I understand we're going to have different views in our party, but we're all working towards the same goal here, which is to get Democrats elected and defeat Republican majorities to help bring back this country and revive the American dream. And right now, I think it's hard to say that we're successfully giving people that vision to vote for.
I think, first off, I do love that the Democratic Party is many shades of blue. Like, it's not just one color. I think that's super important. I think that's one of our strengths. It also can be one of our weaknesses. But I also, to your point about ineffectiveness, I was shocked that Democrats, elected leaders, were shocked that Donald Trump started to enact Project 2025, and they had no answer for it. It's like they were flat-footed when they literally handed us a book. They gave us a book, and none of the leadership, they were like, I can't believe he's doing this. Well, I can. I read it. I read Project 2025. So to your point, it was such a bad moment, and still is a bad moment, that he was able to do everything that he said he was going to do with almost no pushback when we knew what was coming.
Right. And right now, if you ask people in a focus group if the Democratic Party was an animal, do you know what the most common answer is?
No, tell me.
A turtle. For Republicans, it's a shark or a lion. We know that we're fighting for the right things, but it doesn't sound like we truly believe like we are a lot of the time. Far too often, it feels like we're just giving vague talking points about lowering costs and fighting gun violence and these other things, but it doesn't feel real to people. It doesn't feel, for far too many of our leaders in Congress, it doesn't feel like we actually care. And there are members who do care, obviously, like Senator Van Hollen, like AOC, like Max Frost, like Jasmine Crockett, and others. But we need to do so much more in order to build the future of our party right now, because we have lost so much of a voting share with so many demographics. And it's not just a messaging problem. I can't emphasize that enough. We spent $2 billion on our messaging last election cycle, but it doesn't matter if people don't feel heard from us and they don't feel represented. So what we're trying to do here is not just elect any young person by any means. And it's not to say, if there's an older person, we're going to run a young person against them. It's not that simple. There are great older leaders in our party that we need to mentor that next generation. What we need, though, is to give our young people and the future of our party the resources that are required in order to get elected, to put up a fight against Donald Trump, because this generation, they understand the anxiety of the failures of our political system, right? People seem to be surprised when I announce this to some extent, when the reality is my generation knows what it's like to live through the failures of our incumbents and our political system not doing enough to stand up to incredibly important issues like gun violence, climate change, student debt, housing, whatever else it might be. And we must be fighters in this moment.
A lot of people, I think one of the criticisms that you've gotten is that, why are you focusing on Democrats when Republicans are so bad? We should be beating Republicans, not Democrats. What is your response to that?
Right now, there are far too many people who believe that we're just the less bad of two bad options. That is not enough. We need to be the best option that people think of in the first place. And that starts with acknowledging the fact that we simply just going out there and spending a couple $100 million in districts that we need to flip from red to blue for Congress is not going to be enough when our approval rating is as bad as it is right now. And also in the generic ballot, we're up about 0.7% to 1%, when typically you need to be up 2 to 3% in order to be able to win. And when people walk into a ballot box and they look at who they're voting for, the first thing that they're thinking of isn't necessarily that person, but they're thinking of what about the party that this person says that they are a part of, that D that is next to their name. And that is the culmination of our 200 plus members of Congress. It's our governors, it's our other elected Democrats around the country, and what the average and aggregate of what they hear about them and what they think about them. We need to do everything in our power to make sure that we have the strongest Democrats possible that are getting elected. And people know that if they're failing to meet this moment, that there's going to be an expectation that they either step aside or they're going to get challenged. Because we just had, unfortunately, 2 of our members of Congress pass away, and we had some of the largest cuts to Medicaid in American history because of that happening. We are not in a moment in our country where we can just say, well, it's this person's turn, and risk hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people having their lives severely impacted because, oh, it's just this person's turn. Nobody is entitled to their position. We need to make sure that we're getting the best people elected. And all we're doing here is giving people the option to have that possibility in the first place, because far too many people feel like our party is failing to meet the moment right now.
I mean, I agree with you that incumbency should not be the most important part of whether or not someone is allowed to stay in office. Incumbency is a huge factor in whether or not someone is able to get reelected. It's such a strength to be an incumbent. But
our party supports incumbents all the time.
Yes.
All the time.
I mean, that's what's interesting to me about all this is the DNC is basically an organization to help incumbents, and so you're trying to say, well, maybe we should be an organization that just helps get the best Democrats elected.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
I think it's an interesting thing to debate on. To be fair, I'm not sure what the right answer is. I do think that incumbency, obviously, like anything else, it can if you think you're just going to have the seat forever, you're probably not going to be as effective as someone who is thinking, okay, I have to really, it's like anyone else's job, like if you feel like your job is on the line, or if you feel like you've got this job for 20 years, probably have a different work ethic.
And I would say too, that what's really remarkable to me is how so many of the people that are critical of this are people that got to their positions of power because they primaried Democratic incumbents. Hakeem Jeffries multiple times primaried Democratic incumbents.
Oh, is that true?
His position. Yes. Imagine what would happen if we didn't have him right now. Imagine what would happen if we didn't have AOC right now. Imagine what would happen if we didn't have Cory Booker or Ro Khanna or Eric Swalwell, all of whom challenged Democratic incumbents in order to get into their positions. And for me, what I think the view is when it comes down to philosophically kind of what the DNC is trying to push here, I understand the point behind that of wanting to remain unbiased and remain neutral. But here's the deal. This has been such a non-issue that this issue in particular of being involved in primaries other than the presidential has not been addressed, even though we've had multiple vice chairs who were involved in primaries previously.
In what ways were they involved? Because I think you're obviously... You're like a much bigger name than I think most vice DNC chairs. Like, I couldn't really name them.
It was people like Kristen Whitmer and Tammy Duckworth.
Okay, well, there you go. Well, I didn't know that, but I certainly know that I didn't know vice DNC chair was really a thing until you ran.
It's a volunteer role, and it's largely ceremonial, and we don't have that much power, to be frank with you.
No, I know, but you do have a lot of power, and I think that's the thing that is making people a little nervous.
Yeah, and frankly, they should be. Our party is failing. Far too many of our leaders in Congress. If you think that this is the best that we can be doing right now, you need to get a bigger imagination. There's so much more that we need to be doing to stand up to fight against Donald Trump. And I'm not willing to just let us sit on our laurels and hope that just being the less bad of two options is going to be enough. And let me be clear too. I understand philosophically the point behind what they're pushing here. But what I would say to that is that we had an election where I read the bylaws. I understood what was there and what the rules of that election were. I looked at the precedent that had been set by vice chairs who had been involved in primaries previously. And I said, all right, are they going to ask me if about my involvement in primaries? Because I'm not hiding this. I'm talking about how my job, because the vice chair role is a volunteer role, my job is to help elect young Democrats to state legislatures and Congress. And part of that includes primaries, right? And my thinking with it is that you can't change the rules of an election after there's been an election. And that is what's happening.
Well, Ken Martin wrote voters should pick their candidates, not party bosses, which, okay, sure. But what happened last election? What happened last election?
Yeah, who
voted for Kamala Harris? So it's like, okay, well, this time, I guess, but not before. Right. Like, it's okay then, but not it just doesn't. It's like it's not, the math isn't mathing for me. It's like it just seems like they essentially were like, they're just like, hey, it's so cute you got elected, congratulations. Can you just go be quiet over here now? We actually have to go do the real work
and not actually represent young people that we are dramatically losing. And the reason why I know that what I'm doing is the right thing is I don't look for what just makes everybody in DC happy. Those are the same people that got us here, right? They're not going to get us out of here. What I look at is what are people saying to me on the street? Are there young people coming up to me talking about what we're doing, what the party is doing? And I have never had so many young people come up to me in public and say, thank you for what you're doing. I was losing faith in the Democratic Party, but you have reinstilled it in me, and I have hope, and I'm not going to leave because of that. And what we need to do right now is understand that we're facing a real risk in our party of losing people. In states like Florida, the fastest growing political party isn't the Republican or Democratic Party. It's no party affiliation whatsoever, because people are losing faith in our institutions because they feel like they don't really represent things a lot of the time. And what I'm trying to do here is show our young people how they have a voice in the Democratic Party, how there is somebody fighting to create dramatic change and empower our generation and bring them in. And I understand there are going to be people that are upset and made uncomfortable by that. But like I've said, we're not challenging people in critical purple districts that could cost us the House. I'm trying to make sure that we are handling the conflicts and divisions within our party in a safe place where we do not risk losing a majority. And I think it's a healthy process. Iron sharpens iron. There is no potential downside to this situation where we potentially lose the House because of this, because we're focused on safe seats. And the upside here is enormous of having truly generational leaders that are ready to meet this moment.
Well, my hat's off to you. You know, I like I said, I know you're getting a lot of heat from people within the Beltway, but I do know that the Democratic Party base, and a lot of them are supporters of this channel, are extremely interested in this idea, because we all know that what we're doing is not working. We lost to a criminal, someone who tried to steal an election, and we have people in office who don't understand the severity of the moment. And I don't know if that's an age thing. I don't know if it's just been in there for 40 years thing. I don't know what it is, but it's got to change. And if you're making people upset in politics, quite often you might be doing something right. So thanks for joining us. And I look forward to seeing what happens. Are you going to be DNC vice chair in a month? Who knows? But regardless, we will see. And thanks for joining.
And if anybody would like to support our work, because our candidates, that we support, they don't take corporate money. We obviously don't take corporate money either. We rely on predominantly small dollar donors, over 100,000 of them around the country. If people would like to support our work, they can go to leaderswedeserve.com.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, thanks, David. And I hope to see you again.
Cool. Thank you.
Wow. That was good. I need some water after that. What did you all think of that? I think David Hogg is onto something. I'm wondering if you think this is a good idea, a bad idea, if you think that David Hogg is stepping on a line, if he's a DNC vice chair, if or if this is exactly what the Democratic Party needs. I saw a little bit of their comments in the chat. It was as he was speaking, but Dr. Sunshine says, how do we protect David? I don't know, but let's protect him at all costs. My thing is if they're good enough, primary Democrats, it makes them stronger. No one has deserved their seat. I saw this chart that said some of the safest districts have some of the oldest Democrats in it. And I think those are the people that he's trying to go after. HJK says it's a great idea. Forsaken Cavania thinks it's a great idea. I got to tell you, I had a coffee with someone who works at the DNC, and it's just so interesting how voters, the Democratic base, are like, we got to do this. We got to do this. We got to change something. We need fighters. We got to elect people who actually know what's going on. We just got to shake things up. And then I live in DC, right? And then people in DC are like, hold on. Let's not get so drastic. And so it's such a disconnect between what the voters want and what the folks here in DC want to do. But I think this is a fight worth having. I think Chuck Schumer, he's got to go. He's got to step down from leadership. I'm on wait and see mode for Hakeem Jeffries. I think I'm in wait and see mode there, and I certainly think Jerry Nadler, all these people who have been there since I was in kindergarten. Just let it go. Let it go. We need new people in office. We need new people in office. Get out of the way. Thank you for your service. Get out of the way. Either it could be easy or it could be hard, but we need you to move. Retire for F's sake. Exactly. Bonnie, I'm sick of the 80s. Pelosi's 84, Schumer's 74, going on 90. Yeah, does that mean you're going on 90, Bonnie Joe? Because that's a very progressive way to look at this. Katie says, David, thank you for fighting for us. I am so proud of you. And yes, the Democratic Party needs to listen to their constituents, or they're no better than the Republicans. Wake the hell up. Well, that's the thing, is like, I kind of feel like it's here's going to be my metaphor. I'm sober. I've been sober a while, and you kind of need to hit rock bottom. And I kind of think that primaries are almost like an intervention. Really. They're a way of waking people up. So Kat Abgazala, who was on the show here a couple of weeks ago, she is primarying someone in Illinois, and that person is actually retiring now because she outraised the person she was intending to primary. And so she's no longer running for office, the incumbent. So I'm telling you, primaries are important. Now, I don't know if Kat's going to win, and I'm sure she's asking other people to run too, because she wants the best person represented for that area, which I think is commendable. But it just goes to show that that primaries do have a way of waking people up to reality. And I think we just need a lot of Democrats to wake up, either get fighting or get going. Okay. All right. And then I want to end with this, everyone. I think in memorial of George Santos, here's some of his greatest, here's some of his lowlights, the highest of his lows.
Is the human interaction.
Put up or shut up at this point. To set the record straight and put this in the record, I will not be resigning.
Oh, I was not a drag queen in Brazil, guys. I was young and I had fun at a festival. Sue me for having a
It was such a good time. It was such an easier time. We were so innocent.
Is it true that you have an OnlyFans page and you can peel a banana with your feet?
I don't have one. I just discovered what OnlyFans was about 3 weeks ago when it was brought up in a discussion in my office.
A lie. A lie. Lying.
Santos. You just said you don't belong here.
Given the fact that he's under ethics investigation, he should be sitting in the back row and staying quiet.
I think it's reprehensible that the senator would say such a thing to me in the demeaning way he said it. Wasn't very Mormon of him.
Santos. McCarthy.
Now I'm going to have to go and fight to defend myself. The reality is it's a witch hunt. Nobody tells me to do anything. I made a decision on my own that I thought best represented the interest of the Pardon me, guys. Ow! This day and every day, we give credence to the dark side of humanity, but strive for a better, brighter future. Guys, you gotta relax. You're assaulting me at that point.
He's a national joke. He's an international joke. But this joke's gotta go.
I will not resign. I will be continuing to hold my office elected by the people.
He resigned. Oh, no, he got kicked out.
There's no secrets in this place. It's amazing how you all know what goes on.
I am so proud to be as pro-Israel as they come.
He's a terrorist sympathizer. Nobody defending Hamas has any business in this building, whether you're elected, whether you're a civilian. I'm a boring nerd, dork, whatever you want to call me. I just want to pass legislation that are common sense for our people. They want to send me home. If they think this was a fair process.
Exactly, memories.
This is how it should be done. And if they're confident that this is a constitutional way of doing it, God bless their hearts.
Oh, he's in jail now. He's going to be going to prison. He's got to surrender by July. All right, let's go through. Okay, Shadow Song has gone nuts. She donated $20 to the chat. Thank you so much, Shadow Song. And she gifted 5 memberships. Can we get some W's in the chat for Shadow Song? That is so generous of you. Thank you so much. And FJ Markliff gave $40. Thank you so much. Get some Let's get some W's in the chat. And we also got from Ben, $5. Thank you so much, everyone, for your generosity. Thanks for being here. Are you enjoying these live streams? Because I am, and I think they're very fun. If you are enjoying them, please do join us every Tuesday and Friday at 7 p.m. until 7:30, 40, 50-ish, however long it goes. And yeah, and tell your friends about it if you like it. Let's get this thing growing. And I hope to see you again on Tuesday, where we are going to have, I'm very excited about this. We're going to have our guest is Jim Acosta, former CNN anchor. Jim Acosta is going to be on the channel live answering your questions this Tuesday. So please do please do come for that. I'm really looking forward to having a chat with him. He's been doing some incredible stuff since he left CNN, and he'll be here to answer your questions and to take your comments. So thank you all so much for being here. I hope you have an amazing weekend, and I will see you on the channel.